Okay, how's it going? It's, I don't know, been 4 or 5 days since I've made a video, maybe a little bit longer, but today I wanted to sit here and talk about some of the movies on my Blu-ray shelf that I rewatch the most, or that I tend to rewatch the most, or want to rewatch the most. I'm sure there's some I left out, probably lots, because there's still so many movies on both shelves I have, but it's, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and pick 1,500 movies off my shelves and just not do it. So I picked like 15, 20 movies. Not all of them are ones that I had in my top 50 or anything. Like, these aren't all just my favorite movies. These are movies that, in a certain mood, they just get me in the feels. You know, like if I'm feeling in a certain way, I need to put a movie on from this deck of. And again, I'm missing lots, but this is just one video. I'm sure I could do another one of these in the future. So let's get started. We've got Young Guns 1. I would have Young Guns 2 on here. I have it on DVD, but unfortunately the Blu-ray for Young Guns 2 is out of print. And I've always thought the second Young Guns was just a little bit better. And this is the original release of Young Guns on Blu-ray. I have never done the comparison with the new one, but I'm sure this one looks worse. I just love the side though, the silver. I miss when Blu-rays did that kind of stuff. I was talking to my friend about it. DVDs just have better covers. They really do, for the most part. And they put more effort into their design, especially in their scene selection. I know that's like something people don't care about at all. But when you're going to the menu and you've got scene selection and play and all that and the bonus features, and it's laid out in a really nice, cohesive way like DVDs did it, it's a lot more visually pleasing. And Young Guns, I love the DVD for it, but you know, I had to upgrade, and I rewatch this all the time. I love me some westerns, but especially a western with Emilio Estevez in his prime, I would say. This is like right around Mighty Ducks, so this is 88? And yeah, so I love me some Young Guns, and I could sit here talking about that for a while, but you know, I want to get on to some of these other movies here. I rewatched this an unhealthy amount. Gone in 60 Seconds with Nicolas Cage. I have both of them. The original's fine, you know, depending on what mood you're in. It's good if you want to watch a 50-minute car chase. This one in particular, I don't know, I just think it's a better version of Fast and Furious. I think Fast and Furious, the first 3 are fine, even though none of them are connected at all. I just have a problem with where the franchise went, and this is what I feel like it always wanted to be. You know, it's got the family aspect, it's got all these different characters that aren't alike at all, but they somehow come together to make this cohesive choice of stealing 50 cars in one night. They do it, and of course you got the badass chase scene where he's in the Mustang, and I think the cast is really good in this. You know, I really like Giovanni Ribisi, so any movie he's in, you've got my attention. You know, in Saving Private Ryan as the medic, and even in Ted, I think it's pretty funny. Fresh Cakes. But this, he plays the dumb young brother, and Nicolas Cage is to come save the day. And I mean, I love Nicolas Cage. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I'm a big Nicolas Cage fan. And Angelina Jolie looks absolutely yummy in that, with her blonde hair. But those two movies, those are both original release Blu-rays, and they're 2006, I believe. Now this, hello Clarice. I don't watch this as often, but if I'm going to rewatch a horror movie, I put on Silence of the Lambs. This is like the perfect horror film, period. If anybody asks me like, hey, what's your idea for like what scares you? It's stuff like this, because this can happen in real life, and there's people like Hannibal Lecter everywhere, and there's people like Buffalo Bill everywhere, and well, especially Buffalo Bill. There goes the light again. It happens every time. Every time. Buffalo Bill's the one that scares me most, because like a female could just be walking out at night and some creep decides to be like Buffalo Bill, and who knows how many of those fuckers live out there. That could be your neighbor for all you know, and that just terrifies me. And of course, Anthony Hopkins gives one of the best performances ever in a movie in this. And I feel like he lived the rest of his career kind of living, like trying to match this performance, and he just never could. Like, I love him in everything I've seen him in, but this was where he peaked. You know, like, there's just certain performances when you watch an actor, you're like, yeah, that was your best performance. You can try your best, but you're never going to match that. And that was basically this. And I feel that way about Jodie Foster. I've seen some of The Accused, I need to sit through that whole movie. I'm sure she's fantastic in it. She was in the stuff I had seen, and she's really good in Taxi Driver. And what's that movie with her on the flight where her daughter gets kidnapped? That movie's alright, but I don't know. I'm not a huge Jodie Foster fan, but in this, I really think she fits the role. In the sequel, I think Julianne Moore does a pretty good job too. She's kind of hotter, so it works better in that aspect. Not that you want Clarice to be hot; it's not really necessarily a necessity. But I don't know. I thought that's one of the few times that a franchise changed the lead character, and it didn't go horribly wrong. I thought she was okay in Hannibal. Unbreakable. I was really picking between this and Split, but I probably watched this more just because I like the dynamic between him and Glass. I think the whole Glass movie was kind of a letdown, so it's unfortunate that this was like the build-up. Split kind of gave you another character to get excited about, and then Glass kind of shit all over that, and we didn't really get any payoffs, unfortunately. But this movie, it's in my top 5 superhero films for sure, because it's not what you would expect. Like, if you would have been sitting in the movie theater in 2000, I can only imagine you going into this, imagining just this, like, Bruce Willis thriller or something. Kind of like The Sixth Sense, because, same director and everything. But then you come out of it, and it's a superhero movie, and he's this vigilante that saves people, and all he has to do is touch somebody, and he can see what they've done wrong, and it's all this deep shit that... It's honestly fucking brilliant. And that scene where he's getting out of the water and the music is, rising. That's some of the best stuff I've seen in a long time. I watched this, 2 or 3 years ago for the first time. And it's just stuck with me ever since. He falls in the pool tarp and he's afraid of water and afraid of drowning. And he just gets out of there and busts out and goes and... I don't know if he killed the guy in the house, but... definitely beats the shit out of him. And this is just Bruce Willis before he started doing the more straight-to-DVD stuff that we now know is mostly because he started losing his mind, unfortunately. So a lot of those jokes aged poorly with the whole Bruce Willis, why are you doing this thing? But, I've always liked Bruce Willis. I see a lot of people online trashing him and saying he was never a good actor, and that's just simply not true. Die Hard, Pulp Fiction, even Lucky Number 11. Like, there's some random movies where it's like, and Alpha Dog. Like, he's good in a lot of shit where you just... Like, yeah, Bruce Willis is in that. The first Terminator. Now, obviously, I like the second one a little bit more because it's a little more visually appealing, and Linda Hamilton looks really good in it. Not that matters. But I don't know. Second one's got a little more going for it. It's a big action movie with a bigger budget. It's basically this movie, but bigger budget, and the Terminator's good this time. But this, I rewatched this literally 1,000 times as a kid. I don't know if I've rewatched any movie more than this movie in particular. Like, I had this on DVD, the slim little thin slipcover DVD. I had this and RoboCop. They came together in like a 2-pack, and I rewatched them both so many fucking times. I memorized every scene from the first Terminator to the point where I would, in high school, in film class, recreate the Terminator scenes for film class quite often. If I could find a way to like do the "I'll be back" scene, I would always put that in there somehow. If I was doing some sort of angles film, where it's like you got to put every angle in your film, I'll just do the "I'll be back" scene. And I love this particular cover too. This was always my preferred cover of the Terminator. I think it's the 2013 release. Yeah, it is. This is, I think this is just a perfect horror movie. It really is. And it's a different horror movie than something like Silence of the Lambs, which is more of a psychological. This is more of a fucking, it's psychological, because she's being chased. She's being stalked by this robot that literally could not die. And Kyle Reese is this hero that at first you're kind of leery of. It's like, is this guy good? And then, he's really good. And you start cheering for him, and you start cheering for Linda Hamilton, and it's one of those movies. By the end, you're totally invested in what's happening, and you don't even care about how bad the stop motion is aged when you're watching, because you're so laser focused. I loved that though as a kid. The stop motion, I was always like, damn, that looks cool. The first Mummy with Brendan Fraser. It's unfortunate that the other ones aren't as good. I've always stood by Mummy 3 as like an underrated gem in my opinion, but I'm not gonna ever go out on a limb and say that and be like, hey everybody, here's why, because people just won't agree, and that's fine. We all have different opinions, but I just found the third one was a lot better than the second one in particular. The Mummy 2 was like a huge, the Mummy Returns, I should say, it was a huge downgrade, and it does everything a sequel shouldn't do. You know, it falls in every bad category, and the only thing it really did well was give you the Scorpion King for the first 5 minutes of the movie, and then we ended up getting that, which is a decent movie. But we're not talking about the Scorpion King, we're talking about the Mummy. And I like the characters in this movie a lot. I think Brendan Fraser is like criminally underused in his prime. Like if you look at the movies he was in, it's like, oh, really? Like Encino Man was good. I like that. But like Journey to the Center of the Earth was like the peak of this dude's fucking career after Mummy, unfortunately. And this guy deserves so much better. You know, I'm happy that he got The Whale and did a good job in that and won a bunch of awards and stuff. Because the guy, I've always loved him. I've always found this very charming quality about him. Like George of the Jungle, he was really good. He just got something about him. So it's a nice movie to just sit back and watch Friends by yourself. You know, and it's got the whole you got Benny in there, the annoying fucking sidekick who just won't go away. You've got Rachel Weisz, who I think she's pretty good in the first one, and she's beautiful, of course. And Jonathan is pretty annoying in this movie, but the more you watch it, the more you kind of get used to his bullshit. But yeah, I like this movie, you know, and it's a shame that, like I was saying, the sequels weren't quite as good. Point Break. Oh my god, I could sit here and talk about Point Break for the rest of my life. This is the pinnacle of action for me. This is, if I'm gonna sit down and watch an action movie, it's either this or Terminator 2. And you know, I don't think it gets better than this for Patrick Swayze. I have another Patrick Swayze movie coming up after this, but this is better. And the whole wearing the masks, like the presidential thing, I just love that. You know, as a kid, it fascinated me. I walked in on my dad watching this when I was like 2 years old, and it just stuck with me, man. Like that scene where he jumps off and he buckles his knee, it scared me so much. And when I watched this for the first time, I guess seeing a movie that you always had a different idea of, because you've never really seen it, watching it for the first time and seeing it, it's just a different experience, and I just had no idea what I was in for. And I had seen Fast and Furious before this, so it was like, something's eerily similar about this movie. Oh, that's right, everything about this is Fast and Furious. Fast and Furious ripped off every single thing, even where they eat shrimp, not tuna, shrimp. I think he actually does get tuna on white, no crust, just like Brian, or it's tuna, he gets a tuna on wheat later in the movie. So they're doing everything but trying to change just the smallest thing possible. So instead of surfing, it's cars, but instead of the good guy being blonde, or good guy being brown hair, he's gonna have blonde hair in Fast and Furious. So to try and like switch the littlest things possible that you won't really, oh, it's a different movie. No, it's not. Point Break did it first, and this was the beginning of Keanu Reeves' like reign of action, where it's like every 10 years he makes an action movie that will stand the test of time. Except I'm not a big John Wick fan, I'll be honest, and people will go, I hate him, I hate John Wick, but I'm sure the first one in particular will stand the test of time, because it'll be like every 10 years people will go, well look, he made Point Break in 91, in 99 he made The Matrix, and in 2014 he made John Wick. So it's like every 10 to 15 years this guy's making this like generational action movie. It's crazy. He really is, he's a great, he's not a great actor, but he just fits the roles properly in these action movies. Roadhouse. I thought you'd be bigger. When I got this on Blu-ray, I was so happy. I've been looking for this for so fucking long. Like, this is one of those Blu-rays that, something on my, and that I've been looking for like 10 years. I've had it on DVD since I was a kid, and I've rewatched it just over and over. It's another movie that just endlessly. That's most of these. Again, that's what this list is. It's just movies that I've seen an unhealthy amount. Most of them, a few of them, they're newer, unhealthy, rewatched type movies. I don't love rewatching movies anymore, I'll be honest. When I was a kid, I went through this weird thing where, I guess mostly because of my anxiety, I like watching the same things. So if I knew I liked something and I just wanted to kill 2 hours, I wanted to watch something I knew I was going to enjoy rather than waste 2 hours of my life on something that I had never seen. I'm different now. I wouldn't want to sit down and watch something I've seen for the most part, unless I'm playing a video game or I'm editing something, I put it on the background. But Roadhouse is one of the first choices every time when I'm editing or I'm doing something where it's like, what movie do I want to put on my Blu-ray player? Roadhouse. You know, it's a calming movie. The opening scene where he to stake it outside, and then he gets given the whole offer and everything. It's like, this is the most unrealistic movie ever, but I'm in. I'm already in. And then, you know, you've got Wade Garrett. You've got everything you need in this movie. You really do. And you've got Wade Garrett and you've got Dalton. What more do you need? You know, you've got Patrick Swayze in his prime here, and you've got Sam Elliott in his prime. Not really, like, he's a little over the hill a little bit, but that's kind of the whole thing of his character. Only thing I wish more about this is we got one more scene with Wade Garrett and Dalton kicking ass. That scene where they're kicking ass outside of the bar is great, but I just needed one more. The Austin Powers trilogy. Now, it was hard to pick one, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just, all three of them. And I don't own them individually, so I have to show this anyways. The first two, I definitely prefer. You know, as a kid, I liked the third one, but as I get older, I just can't do it. It's not the same as the first two. It's fine, you know, it's got some funny bits, but you can tell Mike Myers is starting to lose it a little bit. Second one has always been my go-to, you know, because Heather Graham's in it, and, you know, we're talking about beautiful women. She's probably up in the top 10 for me. She's just gorgeous. And even Elizabeth Hurley in the first one. Yeah, you know, Beyonce is great, and yeah, she's beautiful and all, but she's just not that great of an actress. So the first two just beat that alone. And then you've got Mini-Me in the second one, and at his best, in my opinion. That whole moon scene is just fucking hilarious. And that's the only detractor of the first one. There's no Mini-Me. So, I mean, if you're looking for Mini-Me, you've got to watch the second or third. And, yeah, Rep Vern Troyer. I'm just glad we're never getting a fourth. Because there was all that discourse for a long-ass time when I was in high school from 2015, like 2019, 20, where it was like, oh, we're making a sequel, we're going forward. And I remember I had this film teacher that I talked to about that. Like, this is just terrifying. If they make another one, this is just going to completely destroy the franchise. And now we see what sequels do. You know, it's always a woman or it's always a ethnic person of some kind. It would definitely be Austin Powers with, like, 5 black people and 5 people in wheelchairs or something. It would just be the most woke mess of a movie. So let's just leave that franchise, alright? Let's just, any movie on this list, let's just not make a sequel, please. Mess around. Yeah, every Thanksgiving I've got to watch some Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And you know what? I messed up. In my top 50 list, I knew I was missing one. This was the movie I was missing. So I would replace probably Gran Torino with this, and I'd probably put this a little higher. I reshuffle some stuff if I'm doing, but it's too late. But this has always been my favorite John Candy movie. And, you know, I always thought it was really funny until I got older. And it's funny, and it's still got hilarious scenes. It's one of the funniest comedies ever. But there's some underlying sad stuff in this film that you need to be an adult to understand. And, you know, just seeing how depressed Del is. He's lying about all this stuff because he doesn't want to admit to himself that his wife's dead. And it's rough, man. And that scene where he brings them home when they're carrying the chest down the street, that's one of the most classic shots in cinema. John Hughes he had a pulse on people's hearts in the 80s. He just knew how to make a heartwarming film. You know, between his Breakfast Club, Home Alone, even Weird Science. You know what? Say what you want. It's heartwarming in the end. Every movie of his has like a very heartwarming ending where it's like, oh, I feel better now. 16 Candles. You know, all of them. They all have an ending where you just feel better about yourself in the end. Steve Martin, John Candy give some of my favorite performances. I'm not done talking about this. I don't want to put it down. Those Aren't Pillows. Is this the Those Aren't Pillows edition? No, it's not. I used to have the Those Aren't Pillows edition on DVD. The scene where he's ranting in the airport was the first time I saw like an uncut F-bomb tirade, and it stuck with me for that particular reason alone. And you know, there's just a lot of things that you watch this and you watch other comedies and you just realize every comedy wants to be this. And Tommy Boy, it basically is this. So when I said Tommy Boy's a ripoff of this in my Blu-ray collection, I mean it is. It really is. I love Tommy Boy, but it's just a ripoff, man. Like, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is the OG. Good enough. Who doesn't like a little bit of Goonies? Actually, I know who doesn't like Goonies. People who watch this as an adult for the first time. I made the mistake with my uncle when he was living with us when I was like, I don't know, 15. He was like, yeah, let's watch Goonies. He grew up in the 80s, so I figured, well, you'll like this. And at least I give him credit, he waited for it to end And the movie ended, and he was like, wow, that was bad. Like, that was atrocious. And then I realized, oh, you have to be a kid to like this. You have to have seen this as a child so you can put yourself in that mindset. I didn't really think about that. Same with Lost Boys. I watched that with him too, and he was like, this is terrible. So you have to have seen some of these 80s movies at least before the age of like 18. Because when your brain starts to form and you watch something like Goonies, I can see why you'd probably hate everything about it. But as a kid, I wanted to be part of the Goonies more than anything ever, man. Like, more than I wanted to be a member of the Montreal Canadiens, my favorite sports team. I wanted to be a fucking Goonie. I wanted to go and hang out with Mikey and Chunk and Mouth and Data. I wanted to be part of this gang, man. I still, it sounds really fucking bizarre, I still have dreams that I'm part of the Goonies. Like, I'm like Brand and I'm the older brother. That still happens, where I'm like, yep, Goonies made that much of a fucking stamp on my life. And even the deleted scenes, I've watched them all 100 times. Like, this is one of those films that, I guess because YouTube wasn't that prevalent when I was 5, 6, 7. I mean, it was, but I would just sit there and I'd rewatch the deleted scenes and the bonus features and the extras on this on loop. This was part of that 5 to 10 movie slide where I just watched them constantly. And this is one of those too. Not the unrated version, though. Dumb and Dumber. I watched the rated version. I honestly, this is very rare. I like just the normal theatrical cut more. So it's a damn shame you can't buy it on Blu-ray. You have to buy the unrated. So I have the theatrical on DVD because I just prefer it. There's just something about, they go a little too like over the top with the unrated. Like, I don't really need to see Seabass's banana hammock when he comes into, or it's not even, but is it like a thong or banana? I don't even know what it is. His dick's hanging out though, and it's just like, it was funnier when you envisioned it in your head. I don't know. There's just certain things that you leave it up to your mind, and it's a lot funnier. Just like the horking scene when you see him, I'm gonna hawk in your burger, and you see it, and it just is the nasty. Like, spit to me is beyond gross. Like, there's nothing to me nastier than a spit scene in a movie. Like in Memento when they spit in his drink, and in this, it's the same thing. It's like, oh. So at least in the other cut that I have, it cuts away. And there's really not much taken out of that cut other than a little few things like that. I don't really know why there's an unrated version other than to add a few disgusting scenes that we didn't really need in the first place. But I love this movie, man. This is like top 10 comedy for me. And again, it just depends on who you are. I showed a friend of mine, he didn't like this, and then I know other friends of mine that love this. And this is one of those movies that generations reference to this day. Like, I remember when I was in Nashville with my dad, we went to see a hockey game, and there was a girl there, and she got hit by a car, or her arm did, and I don't know, she said something like, my arm hurts, and my dad went, well, see you later. Like Lloyd, when you're talking about the big gulps. Like, there's just certain things that you take from movies like that, well, see you later. It's such a throwaway line, yet you're using it 30 years later because it's that influential. Or the, man, you were one pathetic loser. I use that all the time because it's, after seeing the movie, you understand the reference. And I honestly, I've grown to think Jeff Daniels is maybe a little better in this movie than Jim Carrey, which is like a really controversial thing to say. I think Jim Carrey's hilarious, but Harry is just a little bit funnier because he's just a bit smarter. So there's just a little extra flavor to his character being retarded by accident. He's not doing these things on purpose. Where it seems like Lloyd's just an idiot through and through. Blood Diamond. This is the only one on the list that I'd say I haven't seen that much, but I can just tell by the way that I enjoyed it the first few times I've seen it that I'm gonna watch this a lot in my life. And it's a very depressing movie. So it's one of those you have to be in the right mindset for. You can't watch this on a very bad day that you've had because it'll just make it'll compile and it'll make everything worse. But if you're having a pretty decent day and it's like, yeah, you know what? I could watch some Blood Diamond, some Edward Zwick action where they're looking for diamonds and TIA, Denny, and the guy from The Mummy gets shot and it's his boss. So there's a lot of shit going on in this that I was not expecting. And again, Jennifer Connelly, like, whoo, talking about one of the prettiest women ever. I've said that a lot. I got a woman issue. Every time a woman's in a movie, I'm like, man, she's hot. But it's true. They put these beautiful women in these movies for a reason, and here I am talking about her 20 years later. When did this come out? 2006, I think? Yeah, so 18 years later, we're still talking about Blood Diamond. And this has always just, for me, been the DiCaprio performance that gets talking about the least. You know, you see, like, Titanic, which is fantastic, don't get me wrong. And you see, you know, The Revenant and Wolf of Wall Street, but it's just like Blood Diamond gets kind of thrown under the radar. And this is the one who does the most acting for me, where I don't look at him as Leo, I look at him as Danny Archer. It's pretty rare for his characters, but I look at him as the character and not himself, because he's one of those greater than type of actors. You know, and this is another Leo movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where I just knew when I saw this in the theaters, I was gonna love this forever. You know, it's not a great structured film. You know, a lot of my friends and I argue about that because they're like, it's a terrible movie. It's not a good structured movie. I get that. But I'm watching this and I just want to hang out with these characters constantly. Like Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton seem like the type of guys you want to chill with on a Friday night and have a beer with and watch Bounty Law and just shoot the shit. Talk about, oh, I remember shooting that scene, and hear them talk and reminisce about what they were doing when they were on set. All that. There's so much fascination behind that aspect of this film. I don't even care about the story. There really isn't a story. It's just they kind of dodge a bullet with the Manson family. That's it. That's the story. That's fine. And that's where Tarantino does it as best, in my opinion. Pulp Fiction, his best movie, doesn't really have a plot. Whenever he tries to get specific with the plot, kind of loses me a little bit. And I mean, I'm speaking contrarian because the next movie I have on my list is a very, very plot-oriented Tarantino movie, but we'll get to that. I think Brad Pitt and DiCaprio just have a perfect chemistry. They really do. And Margot Robbie, she's barely in it, but she's great. And Emile Hirsch is in this. Every time I see him, I'm like, hey, it's Emile Hirsch. This movie just makes me happy. And they did a really good job recreating the 1960s Hollywood. They brought back a lot of the famous actors. You know, you got Steve McQueen in there and Sharon Tate. It was pretty cool they did that kind of stuff. And you can tell Tarantino had his heart in this one. The Hateful Eight. So, yeah. Most people would say they've never rewatched this, or like, yeah, I've seen that once and it was alright. There's just something weird about this that I just want to rewatch constantly. I rewatched this like last week when I was playing video games, and I was like, you know, what movie do I want to watch? And this popped up on Netflix, and fuck it, why not? And I noticed 50 minutes in, holy, we're 50 minutes in, and it felt like 5-10 minutes in. That's how good the dialogue is in this one, and the characters just seem like genuinely real people. It's terrifying, actually, especially Walton Goggins. You feel like you're watching a real person from the 1800s shooting the shit, talking about Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln letter, and it's just it's perfect. It really is like a perfect time capsule film, and if you haven't seen it, I really recommend watching it. It is long, so it's 2 hours and 45 minutes or whatever, but that's Tarantino for you. He doesn't make a short movie, which I appreciate. He makes it worth your time, money, and makes it worth his time too, because if I'm going to waste years of my life writing and directing, it may as well make it a 3-hour movie, right? But the twist in this is very interesting. I mean, you could see it coming. The script was leaked in this, so I mean, if you had any interest, you would have probably read before watching. I didn't, actually, so I watched this and I had no idea what was coming. But yeah, I'm not going to say too much more, because it's not new, but there's still some people I'm sure that haven't seen it. And the last on my list is True Romance, and I'm talking about movies that just make me feel a lot better. I was not expecting what I got with this when I first watched it. I was maybe 17, 18, and my dad talked about it a lot because he liked Christian Slater. And I'd never seen a Christian Slater movie before this, so it was like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to watch a Christian Slater movie. And this instantly became one of my favorite movies. And Christian Slater instantly became one of my favorite actors. You know, you got Pump Up the Volume, Interview with the Vampire. I just love him in pretty much everything they put him in. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like, he's just, Christian Slater was wasted. I've always said it, man. Christian Slater was fucking wasted. The guy had charisma that very few actors have. Like, he had Jack Nicholson level charisma for me. And he looks like Nicholson level with those eyebrows. But yeah, man, like, even Broken Arrow. Like, there's so many movies with him where it's like, damn, he's good. And the cast in this, fucking, like, phenomenal. When you read the back here, as it has them on the front. You got Patricia Arquette, who you got Dennis Hopper with that monologue, which was fucking great. And I mean, it gets a little overblown. These people are like, it's the best scene ever. It's pretty good. But There's some better scenes in this movie for me. Gary Oldman as Drexel is so good. He's in it for 5 minutes. He has no business being that memorable, yet he's probably the most memorable scene. When he's throwing the light back and forth, and it keeps coming back, and you can feel the tension building in that scene as Clarence is... You can tell that some shit's gonna go down. I fucking just love that. And music's in the background. They're watching The Mac with Richard Pryor on the TV. The attention to detail, it does feel like a Tarantino movie. They did a good job pulling the script and filming it as if Tarantino would film this, because Tony Scott has a very specific way of filming movies, and this doesn't really feel like a Tony Scott film for the last 30 minutes, last 10 minutes in particular when they're driving away. And he has a very warm look to his movies, like Last Boy Scout has a very warm California, bright look. And that's what the end of this looks like. So up until then, it feels like a Tarantino movie, but then it kind of turns into a Tony Scott typical film. I still love this, and Brad Pitt as Floyd is one of those characters that everybody references to this day. Kill you, man. And Christopher Walken's in this, and am I missing anybody? Oh yeah, Val Kilmer as Elvis. That's one of those weird things I always forget about, is him talking to Elvis in the bathroom. And you don't even see his face, but Val Kilmer plays Elvis perfectly. So those are, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 movies that I wanted to just kind of talk about. I rambled a lot longer than I thought I was gonna. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back to make more videos soon, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good day, and I will see you later.